Hey guys, this is my next vlog in the series that I've been making. This one is entitled Starsigns, Sexuality and Sabbats. So, we'll pretty much be looking at star signs' correspondences with their elements and ritual use. Sexuality within the craft, from my point of view. And then also looking at sabbats. So, me being someone that lives in the southern hemisphere, our sabbats kind of happen at about 6 months ahead or 6 months behind the northern hemisphere sort of sabbat. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be looking at today, and just pretty much looking at mythos with the sabbats as well. So start off with star signs. As I've mentioned earlier in some of the other vlogs, I am a Gemini. Also, pretty much my father, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother were all Geminis as well. So I kind of like to think I'm a generational Gemini in that sort of aspect, but I definitely encompass the stereotypical sort of aspects of a Gemini. So being communication being a major factor, quick-witted, like to talk a lot, like gossip, whether it be spreading it, starting it, or just understanding it, but been getting better at that, so not really doing it much, but always seem to know what's happening, always very curious about everything as well, so wanting to know what's going on, and yeah, finding out the true stories and the information the best way that I can. Also have the negative side, which of course would be the gossip factor, but also sometimes being too curious and pushing people too much for information. What else? Not being very stable, being impatient, so kind of wanting things straight away, losing focus quickly, which happens a lot. But yeah, definitely I kind of encompass all of that. But as a child, I was brought up in essentially an air house. My mother is an Aquarius, my dad, like I said, is a Gemini, and my sister is a Libra. So we kind of had all three air signs covered when I was growing up, which was quite an interesting mix. You'd think it'd be kind of a lot of talk and everything, but yeah, it was kind of worked a lot. But with ritual practice, I think the elemental associations with star signs, it can play into it, like if you want to do it that way, but pretty much you'll know where your correspondences are and that sort of stuff. But with star signs as well, like my sun is in Gemini, I have a Pisces moon, and I have a Virgo ascendant. So essentially my outward sign, the sun sign, is my Gemini, so that's my communication side. My hidden aspects, the moon in Pisces, would be kind of my deeper running emotional aspect. And then the true nature, which is my ascendant, would be Virgo. So I tend to write lists a lot and be kind of organised and like to get things done when I can. So I think that sums me up. My actual astrological chart I got done by a friend about a year or so ago, and while going through it, so much of it clashes. It just kind of like doesn't balance out sort of thing. It's like one side and the other side, and very dual nature, very Gemini in that sort of aspect. Next thing I'll be looking at in this would be sexuality. So I am a gay male, and I've been practicing for over 10 years now. Witchcraft for over 10 years now, not practicing gay male. I think I've pretty much known I've been gay since I was little, but I only really admitted it a couple of years ago to friends at after a Beltane that I had with my old coven, is kind of when I came out to people. Like, I've been kind of dealing with it myself for a while, knowing that I wasn't straight, but for a long time I thought that I might have been bi, because I was attracted to women as well, but I found I'm attracted to women on a friendship sort of side, but sexually more attracted to males. But with sexuality in the craft, for me, it's kind of been harder in the aspect that the stories of the sabbats and the whole polar opposites, the masculine and feminine energies, I find that being a gay male within the craft, I can kind of balance between those two, so it's not so much that I have to be the masculine, strong strength. I can also encompass that feminine strength, but it's not just because I'm a gay male, it's because I'm pagan, I'm a witch. That's what the true nature of our craft is about, being able to balance and become both parts, not limiting yourself just to one side, not like being able to be the positive and the negative, being able to be the masculine, the feminine, being the aggressive and submissive. It's finding a balance within the craft. And with the mythos of the sabbats, it's kind of, you find it's kind of a very heteronormative sort of relationship. So the god and the goddess, those two sort of essences. But if you look at it, it's only really two sides to the same coin sort of thing. They're both the same parts of a whole. They're not separate in any way. They're joined together. But once you take out kind of the mythos behind the sabbats and stories and all that sort of stuff, it's just essentially looking at the balance between the masculine and the feminine, the light and the dark. There's a lot of balance that occurs within our path, and denying part of that is kind of denying the whole. So it's all well and good if you want to just work with the feminine aspects of the craft, but there's always going to be that male side. A lot of people that I've known through personal experience, and don't judge me on this, you can leave me comments if you want to say anything, but like they very much go, when they first start out, go very much feminine side, because they'll work a lot with the goddess, because they've been through, whether it was a Christian or Catholic upbringing, so they've been kind of burned by that masculine all-power sort of side of it, the bringing down women power sort of thing, so men over women, when it's just, we're equal, that's it. Like, it's the same thing with day and night. The balance is going to change and shift, and the sun and the moon, it's just two sides. Like, that's what it's really about. And once you really start working with that and accepting that into your path, it makes it a lot easier to get through everything. Which then leads into the sabbats. So, for me, the next upcoming sabbat here is Midsummer, or Lissa, if you want to say that way. So that's your summer solstice, where I know that in the northern hemisphere the next one would be coming up would be Yule, so the winter solstice. A lot of people, depending on the way they practice down here, I personally practice on a seasonal sort of basis. So in being that we're coming up to summer, I'm going to celebrate the summer solstice. I know that some people are very true to the northern traditions while they still live down here, so they will be celebrating Yule at this upcoming Sabbath. But it's just kind of finding what works for you, finding your own stories for the Sabbath, finding your own mythos, finding a path to get through. Like, you can look at, if you look into research of all the Sabbats, a lot of them are harvest festivals. It was times when they were either like, the Mabon would be when they were harvesting apples, and then around Samhain you'd be looking, there'd be like a lot of pumpkins around, and it would be kind of the seasonal shift again, and when it was getting darker in the world. And look at Ostara, it's springtime, it's when the world's all fertile and new again, and there's life all around, the flowers are out in bloom. And if you look at like Imbolc, it's when like, so here down in Australia, like it's when all the white jasmine comes out and a lot of white flowers are blooming, so it's that returning light here. But for me personally, like I've kind of been developing my own mythos with each Sabbath. It kind of, a different story will come out. I was doing a lot of work with the Oak and the Holly Kings. So we did, with my old coven a couple of years ago, we did a ritual where I became the Winter King or the Holly King for that ritual, and I found that for the next 6 months, when he was in power, it was kind of like I had a guardian walking with me and watching over me and giving me guidance and strength. And then we did the changeover again, and I found that I got the flip side this time. It was kind of more the summer essence, so like the Summer King or Queen, if you want to put it that way. I think we had a Summer Queen and we had the Winter King, but it was that it was more that the life essence was back. It was the returning sun. So working with that sort of aspect, I know that a friend's coven that they work with, their mythos includes a wolf and a stag, and they have the battle at Midsummer and at Yule. But it's very much, it's all about self-discovery. It's finding what works for you, finding the mythos, finding the stories. It's all well and good reading it in a book, but if you don't know what you're reading and you just blindly go into ritual and just use the symbology that's there because it's just there, like, and you don't know why that's there, it's not going to really help your progress or help your path anyway. So I suppose the more prepared, the more research you do for a Sabbat, the more you get to understand it, the more you'll live it, the more you'll breathe it, the more it'll become part of your everyday aspect, your everyday life. And just noticing, like, how does the natural change around you occur? So, like, at Astara, here all the flowers start coming out, so that's when the springtime's coming. So I know that the spring equinox is approaching. Here at midsummer, the day gets longer and there's a lot more sunlight. So I know we're coming up to the longest days. That's when I know we're coming up to midsummer. For Yule, it'd be like the days seem to just be very short and the nights just drag on, and that's when I know that we're coming up to the winter solstice. It's just looking at what's happening, and even if you just go to, like, if you don't live on a farm or you don't live out in nature or anything, just looking at the foods that change in your supermarket. So I know that we're coming up to summer, so we'll get all the seed fruit, so like nectarines and apricots and mangoes, which is my favourite kind of fruit season of the year. I love all the seed fruits. Like, the summer fruits are my favourites, and just those little things that remind you that seasons are again changing. Even just what you have to wear, like, if once you know that the autumn equinox is coming, that you have to start putting on a jumper or some extra clothing or put another blanket on your bed, that sort of thing. Just those little parts that nature plays into your everyday life, because a lot of people don't have that connection much anymore because we seem to be cutting ourselves off a lot from nature. Really just getting out there, like, they make a big deal about it. I've heard a lot in different parts of America and everything, when the leaves change colours. Like, a lot of our native trees here are very much evergreen, so we don't get a lot of leaf change colour. We'll get forests that stay green for the whole year. But the introduced species will get colour change, but it's kind of an indicator. It's just looking for natural cycles, natural indications of what's happening, whether it be birds that change in your area. So, like, for me, the magpies that are near me, I can tell it's spring because they've got their new babies coming out and they're teaching them how to eat, and you just see the little grey birds floating around. And then, like, in winter it gets a lot quieter, a lot of the birds are resting, they're not out as active as much anymore. I know when it's summer because there's a couple of trees near where I work, and it's like 7 o'clock at night when the sun's starting to go down. You just pretty much hear them screeching their heads off because they're all trying to get comfortable and get ready to roost for the night. And you can tell that's when the days are getting a lot longer. But I think that's pretty much all I've got to say in most of this. But yeah, leave me some comments about what star sign you are. How you, like, do you find that your path affects or is being affected by your sexuality in any way? And what's your favourite Sabbat and how do you like to celebrate it? For me personally, I would have to say my favourite Sabbat is Yule, and I love staying up all night until like the next morning and watching the first sunrise after the longest night. It's very nice, and just staying up playing games and feasting with friends and just kind of sitting it out and try to see who actually can stay awake and who falls asleep, and just that sort of fun. But yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon. Not quite sure what my next one's going to be on, but I'm sure I'll have topics again soon. But see you guys in about a week or so. Blessed be.